guys, thank you, and welcome back to another episode on we're Modern Day Prophets Rising from Soul. And I am so excited to have these two here. Even after just spending 10 minutes with them, I know what good role models they are for role models in business and role models in relationships, and what happens when you combine both of those things and have a family. So we're going to talk to them about how they met. We're going to talk to them about what they're going through and maybe some of the struggles that can help us who maybe don't have the greatest role model of relationships to take what we need to from this and to be able to apply it into our own lives. So let me welcome my two very, very special guests, my very first couple, which I'm beyond excited about, Tanner and Kate, and it's Wendell, right?
Yep.
Wendell, yeah.
Okay, so Tanner and Kate Wendell, thank you guys so much for being here today.
Yeah, you are.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. This is a real treat, and like you just mentioned, we spent a few minutes catching up, and it's amazing to me how with just a little interaction online and putting out the right message that you can find the right people, and I definitely found feel like we've found the right people here.
Right. I don't think I work with so many people that don't get that yet, and it's okay because I didn't get that either until it happened, and I'm like, oh, okay, I get it now.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to give just a little intro, Kate?
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought you were going to say something, but
no, to put you on the very spot, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay. Yeah. So, well, hello, my name's Kate. Tanner and I have been married now just over 3 years. So, in a way, a young couple, young relationship, but yet we've had so much happen in about the 5 years that we've known each other, from meeting to marriage, from doing a long distance relationship. I was living in New York City at the time that we met, then doing long distance and planning a wedding and moving me across country. Now here we are just outside of Denver, Colorado, having 2 kids. I got pregnant about 2 weeks after we got married, and as newlyweds, and then dealing with pregnancy emotions, and Tanner has a daughter from his first marriage, and a stepmom and a new home and not knowing anyone out in Colorado. It was a lot of stuff all at once. So we're a young marriage, and we recognize that, and at the same time we've really experienced so much in our single life as well as in our relationship together in our marriage, that from the things that we've learned, we just want to be able to say, hey, we learned this, and learn from our mistakes, learn from our journey, and how we can be able to serve other people with that.
Right. That's amazing. That is amazing. I forgot about all of those other things.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. It is, people, it is not about the time. It is about the experience. It is about how you show up for that experience and who you become through that experience. And these two, you got a lot of experience in all of that.
Yeah, we sort of, not joke. I mean, it's true though, but it's like we literally every aspect of our life over the course of 4 to 5 years has changed in terms of Kate's location, going from single to married, kids, our work and what we do there, probably finances, health, like pretty much everything that
everything.
Yeah, pretty much everything that it's it's weird to look back on the fact that we've lived the majority of our lives not who we are today, and that it a lot can happen in a short amount of time. And I also know that sometimes it can seem frustrating for me, because once things start to happen, then you want more and you want different, and you see the possibilities, and it can be frustrating sometimes, I know, for people that things aren't happening fast enough. But we've been reflecting and writing down, and we're like, wow, look at all these things that have changed in 5 years. And it didn't feel like that, quite frankly, like the days are hard. The days are long and the days are hard. But the months pass by and the years pass by. And again, it's only been a few short years, but as we've looked back on it, pretty much everything has changed. And so,
and there's growth out of all of that.
Well, change is growth.
Right.
Realize it's that. I mean, you just went through in 5 years what a diamond does. And, it's so talked about, that pressure, but not everybody experiences their change like all at once like that.
Yeah.
I particularly can really relate to that because I did. Because when I woke up, I didn't know which direction to go in. I had no clue. I couldn't see a future. I didn't know. I just knew that I was feeling helpless. So I decided that every single step I took, even if it was my physical step, was going to be in the direction of the opposite that I had done before.
Right.
So that means every single choice I made was unknown and changing. And you go through a lot because you're growing through all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
well, and people don't want change. Even if they're not loving the status quo and the current situation, it's known. So people stay in that environment even though they don't love it, because the uncertainty is more hard to handle, so to speak, than the current uncomfortableness that they know. And I think it takes a unique individual to say, I'm going to step into the uncertainty. I'm going to step into the unknown. And we are now all forced with it with our current situation, right? So like what's happening in our world right now, in our right in our backyard, like there's so much uncertainty and people don't know how to deal. Like they don't know how to handle it because they've never embraced the unknown. And this is a huge learning opportunity for so many people. And we always come back to, but change, life isn't supposed to be easy all the time. Life isn't supposed to be happy and rosy all the time. And I think we're sold to think that that's how life should be. So when it gets hard and when it is uncertain and when we've got to make a change or we've got to step into something that's going to challenge us, we freak out, or we don't know what to do. So it's important to look at we're in these current times right now for a reason. And how are we going to respond to it? How are we going to step into this unknown and uncertainty and say, I'm going to grow through this? Like, what can I learn about myself to be better on the other side of it? And that's what we've stepped into. Like we've pulled ourselves back from everything that's going on and said, okay, this is our blessing that we could just be home and focus on the things that are important to us. Like, what are we going to do and how are we going to come out of this on the other side? I mean, if we really think about it, this sucks. Like, we're not loving everything about it. It's a scary time. We can get really mad and heated about, certain things and how we view things, but that doesn't do any good. That there's no good outcome from getting all worked up like that. But we can control certain things. And so we focus on what we can control to be better on the other side.
Absolutely. Girl, that was awesome. Like, I would love to be around you two all the time. I can see why you guys are married. Like, how it doesn't matter how different you are. Like, this is great to be able to have that conversation with the person that you love the most and be able to realize you're on the same team and you're focusing towards the same thing. Like, I hope the audience hears that.
And I think it's also recognize, like, you might be in a relationship or you might be around people who don't feel that way. And I would say that's okay. Mm-hmm. Accept it. And then just say, but I'm going to continue to work on me. Mm-hmm. You still have control of you.
Yes.
So if you're in that kind of,
with that,
right? Like, because I know that there are a lot of relationships like, we're a unique breed, and we do kind of recognize that we're like, yeah, we want to do business together. We, we run our household together. Like we're in it together, and we're doing everything together. And we have that same outlook, even though we may have like different approaches to things or whatnot. But not every couple is like that. Not every relationship is like that. And majority of the people probably aren't. So if you're in that relationship that's like, oh my gosh, my dude just doesn't want to get it together, just accept it. Say, you can't control that person, but you can control you. Yeah. So do what you can for you to just keep your mind in a good place.
Yeah. Focus on those those self-disciplines. Focus on those self-questions that are just going to put you in a better place when you start to answer those questions, for sure.
Yeah, and I think I've seen. I actually just saw this yesterday in a Facebook group that I'm a part of, and this woman posted. And listen, I think the traditional scenario is like, hey, the guy is sort of the deadbeat, right? There's a lot of disappearing dads and stuff like that, and I've taken that on personally, like being a father and divorced, and I do have 50-50 or sometimes more than 50% custody of my daughter, and people are like, oh, how much time do you get to spend with her? And I was like, as much as I can. Like I fought for that, and so I understand that not all situations are like that. We do have a lot of strong, powerful female leaders, and sort of the feminine energy is rising, and I totally love and respect that, and I think there is a healthy yin and a yang and a balance, but I see so many. I'm in a bunch of groups of dads and dudes complaining about the women and talking about divorced dads and talking trash about sort of their exes. And then this other group that I'm in around an event that's coming up was a woman posting like, hey, my husband and I are going to do this together, but I'm so afraid that he's not going to be engaged, and he's not going to do this, and he's not going to do that. And if this doesn't work out, then I think it's going to have to be over. And she was, honestly seeking advice. And a lot of people said things that were in line with my thinking, which was, and what Kate just said is like, focus on yourself and focus on what you can control, and stop attempting to predict the future, particularly as it relates to somebody else's actions and outcomes.
Absolutely.
And I really do believe, that one person and only one person can change a relationship. Mm-hmm. And sure, it takes the other person to come along. Right. When you're stuck in a place, and I was there, like when you're stuck in a place of always waiting for the other person to change, or focused on what's wrong, or like wanting them to do, X, Y, and Z, or be different, that's not a winning place to be in for either party. And that's how I approached my previous marriage. Yeah. And then I realized my health sucks in my 20s, right? Like it's not good. I kind of got a wake up call, with high blood pressure at the dentist office, and I was like, no, it's just, I've been running around and had a lot of coffee today, and it's like 3:00 in the afternoon. And they were just sort of like, okay. But I had a couple of things like that where I was like, oh man, like this isn't about anybody else but me. Yeah. And when I started to take control of my health, like things started to change for me. Yeah. And then my, now ex-wife, like she got to choose in or out of that. And she became she actually became very critical of me waking up at 5 a.m. and waking her up and blah, 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 and accused me of like sleeping with women at the gym I was going to, because she was critical or sort of fearful of the fact that I was taking control of my health and changing my life, and she wasn't. Yeah. But it allowed us to come to a point where I was really clear on who I was and what I wanted. Right. Whether or not I wanted to continue to be with somebody that didn't want to grow and make changes for themselves,
Yeah.
rather than focusing on like, why don't you do this? I wish you would do that. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for you to change so our relationship can be better. You're going to be waiting at that station, you know, the rest of your life.
Forever. Well, and so I'm single, and now I stay single on purpose, because I'm like, I have to be walking in these steps of value. And I practice my relationshiping with anybody that comes in my life that's willing to show up and put work in. And how I, like how I run my challenges and all of that, it's what are your values? And so now the system that I use is, it's like, if our values don't align, then I am absolutely okay with not walking beside you right now in any way, shape, or form. And that's totally okay. Half the time, well, not even like 99.9% of the time, when I ask somebody what their values are, they don't even know. And then they're trying to get into a relationship. And I'm like, okay, well, that's where we got to start then, because you're going to just fly all over life as a reaction if you don't even know what your guideposts are. Yeah. So, for me, I don't know if a relationship is in store. Like, I got a lot, like, it's going to take a person that's going to be like, hey, we're going to be willing to work on, all of this, but my values, now the relationships that I have, they're not vindictive. They're not keeping score. Like, I ask them and see what their strengths are. I let them know what my strengths are. And I say, okay, how can we work together?
Yeah.
So even if you're single right now, and I know that there's a lot of single people out there right now that are feeling desperate to fill this need of a relationship. And I can't tell you what that's like to actually have a partner like this, but I can tell you what that's like to have a friend like this. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's the single people, like, again, when they're talking about going back to your going back to you and what you can control, this is where you have to start and just allow for whatever is to come next in that area to be better than what was in the past, because you're now walking in some sort of value.
Yeah. So at the beginning of this, we were talking beforehand about how Tanner and I had come up with non-negotiables.
Yeah.
And this was something that we had figured out on our own as single people well before the two of us met. Mm-hmm. But I want to point out, so I got married at 41, had my first child at 42, second child at 44, and I just turned 45.
Thank you for calling that out. Thank you for, girl,
yeah.
I would not, so I'm 42, 41.
Yeah, it's okay. You don't have to remember.
Yeah, 41. But I did not, I was thinking you were probably in your early 30s.
Yeah, so I married young, and okay. Tanner's 33.
I love it.
So he just turned 33. I just turned 45.
32. Okay.
Or 34. Oh, that's right. Now we're 10 years apart. Okay. Yeah.
I love it.
We have awesome. We have a month where we're like 11 years apart. But I bring that up because I spent pretty much my adult life working as a single professional, only thinking my life was going to be complete and better, and I was going to be truly happy if I had the relationship. And it was because that was how my family, that's how I grew up, like get married and have kids. I wanted to be like my mom. My parents have been married 53 years. Like they're an amazing example of marriage and preserving the sanctity of marriage and working together and raising a great family. I have one older sister, and we're very close. Like I have a very blessed life that I grew up with, but it was still that what was instilled that you should get married and have kids, and that's going to be the great life. Now that's, and I got married and I have kids and I have a great life. Right. And it's also okay if you don't get married and don't have kids, and you can still have a great life, whatever the woman chooses. However, women tend to think that they have to have the man in order to be happy. And I fell into that. And so for the women who are single, I would say even if you're single and you want the marriage, you want the relationship, be okay with where you are right now. Find ways to be happy with being who you are right now, where you are. It's okay to continue to have your dreams. It's okay to have the goals that you want for your future. I had to get to a place where I was like, but you know what? I have a really beautiful life right now. I have a great career. I have friends. I'm living in New York City, which was a dream of mine that I thought was like never going to happen. And then 2008 happened and I was able to get into New York City, so I had a beautiful life. Be happy with that right now. So be happy with right now, and know that if you want to continue to find the right person, if that's your dream, then my advice would be put yourself around places for the kind of man you want. Be who you want in the relationship, and then put yourself around the men you want to find in the that you want to date. I.e., I started doing personal development.
Not the bar at 1 a.m.
Exactly.
Not the bar. Let's see, not Tinder.
Not the rock concerts or, I'm in rock radio and
not
I'm like,
alcohol.
Hey.
Not the alcohol.
Yeah.
And I used to, and that was, so for me, right. So her parents married 53 years, all, this family dynamic. And for me, I just shared with you earlier, I added it up between, all of my extended family out to my grandparents. The divorce rate is over 90%. There's only one couple left sort of in two generations of lineage that are actually still married, and they're completely miserable. So I had this blueprint that marriage was going to suck anyway, and that it was going to end in divorce. Subconsciously, I wasn't like thinking like, oh, let me go find somebody to have a nasty divorce with, but like that's kind of what my actions were dictating once I looked back on it after I went through divorce. But I had such a scarcity mindset that I thought like, oh, if I don't get married and find somebody, even if it's miserable by the time, mid-20s, like they're all gone. Like it's so crazy to me to think about how I was thinking about things.
Well, I want to stop you and just bring up a point of science right now, because I want the audience to hear this too. So how old were you? Like when
I got married?
Now when you got married, but like when you kind of woke up to being like, okay, I need to make a different choice. Like how old?
I think I was like, it was like 28 after I had gone through divorce. Yeah.
Okay. So Dr. Joe Dispenza says that by the time that you're 35, 95% of your behavior is from your subconscious programming. Mm-hmm. So you weren't necessarily there yet, but if you're already at 90% rate, and you're at way more than a 90% rate of almost being there, do you, like, audience, can you hear that? Can you hear that?
And it was actually, so it was statistics like that. I was invited to attend an information session about a personal development seminar. I had no idea what I was getting into. Essentially, one of my friends who I had met sort of through the single life, she was attempting to hook me up with one of her friends who was going through this personal development program. And her friend was like, I'm not going to date any guys that won't, at least hear this information. And so I had no idea what I was getting into. I got invited to this thing at a freaking Holiday Inn on a Wednesday night, and whatever. I was living the single life. I'm like, okay, cool. I'll go. I'll meet some people. I'm going to meet my friend there, and we'll see where it goes. Like, really no thoughts about it. And I think that's one of the best things that happened to me, because I sat through a presentation where information like that was discussed. Information about the fact that, all areas of our life are connected. And when you're, winning in one area of your life, you find that you do better in the other areas. And when you have an area of your life that is really depleted, it pulls on the other areas of your life. And for me, I had experienced that through changing my health and fitness. I had never been active. I wasn't an athlete. I was, this pudgy, overweight kid from Nebraska who just ate corn and red meat all the time. And And so I was like, oh, well, I've already started to see this with my health, and I see other things in my life improving. And oh my God, like if my mind is pretty much, my noodle's already baked, right? And I'm just operating on autopilot. No wonder this stuff's all falling apart as I looked at what I grew up around. And it's sometimes difficult to share this because I mean no offense to my parents or my family members
Right.
or anybody else. It's just simply looking at the way their life is and the way my childhood was, and then asking myself the question, is that how I want to continue my life? And is that the life that I want to show my children and pass that on?
Yeah.
And you know, if you question whether or not, for those listening, if you question whether or not this is true in your life, you can likely look at things that annoy you about parents or family members and siblings, people that you grew up with, that you said, man, I don't want to be anything like them. And then look at how many ways you are like your parents in your life. And we've had
Oh
this
my
discussion.
gosh.
Like
That is pure. I want to put a big flag right there because that is pure gold. And that will be a place that is hard to sit with.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get to this place, what I realized about that place, when you come to that self-actualization, and when you make a change from there, that is literally where you give up the willingness to have to be right.
Yep.
And when you're willing to lay that down and you can see it without taking it personally, you begin to see these things. Because if you don't see these things, you can't change these things. So it creates this, like, as soon as you're willing to do that, and you're willing, and in that you accept responsibility for it, you accept responsibility for all of it. And then what was your next, so you said your noodle was cooked. What was the next thing that you did?
So I signed up for that course.
Okay. You took a different action than you normally would have.
I put a $500 course on a credit card and said, put me, you know, they were holding one like later that week or later that month, you know, and now everything's virtual and we've connected, you know, because of challenges and sort of smaller bite-sized things. And I think it's phenomenal, right? That's why we've gotten into this stuff, because the reality is, not everybody's going to go to that course that I went to. Not everybody's going to go to the, $2,000 3-day weekend seminar that we met at. Not everybody's going to sign up for a $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 mastermind. Like not most people aren't going to do that. And so what we've discovered, you know, through this challenge model is it's like an appetizer. Like people can come in and they can get some new ideas and then they can make some decisions. And that's what happened for me. Like I spent $500 in a weekend, you know, on a frickin', you know, drugs and alcohol, but
a really good time.
right. And then wake up Monday and be like, oh my God, you know, I got to go to work so I can earn that back so I can do it all over again next weekend. And never think about that, right? Never think about that. But to pull out and go, oh, $500, which I don't have, I'll put it on a credit card and figure it out later. That was the first time I had ever done anything like that. And what I've come to learn is that we as humans do things from two places. One is either to avoid pain or to seek pleasure. And most of our actions are driven to avoid pain, even though it may seem like you're seeking pleasure, right? Even though the drugs and the alcohol and the sex and all the other stuff, it's like, oh, well, that's about pleasure. Maybe a little bit, but when you get right down to it, at least what I examined in my own life, it was seeking pleasure, but it was seeking pleasure to avoid pain. To cover things up, to mask things. And so that's what I did. I went to the 3-day seminar. From there, I signed up for an even higher level 7-day retreat that was several $1,000s that I had to travel to some remote area in Northern California. Again, like things I had never done. And all I needed was like, I just needed that hour, and I just needed somebody to give me a different idea and to bring me to the awareness that like, hey, most of what you're doing is on autopilot.
Yeah.
And not that it's, people say like, oh, well, it's not your fault. Not like it's not entirely your fault. And you must take full responsibility for everything in your life.
And to recognize like what's not working.
Right.
Like,
I mean, I guess, and ask yourself the question, do you want to stay there?
right.
I mean, and that's where you have to get real honest with yourself. Like, do you want to stay there? If you don't, then who cares whose fault it is? Who cares what the past is? Like, you're building a future. Like, and guess what? That has nothing to do with your past. You're building a future from your future. You're not looking back anymore. And there's a weight that gets let go of that, which is just like, that's where the magic starts to happen that I'm seeing. And I'm just like, whoa, that's why you could be the spokesperson for the challenge that I'm doing. So I love it. So I want to give you guys something, because this is something that from Ryan, I started learning. And then I found out there's actually like this huge amount of science behind it called heart math. I just never needed the proof. I just always knew it was true. So if you guys put your hand on your heart right now. So the first thing that this does, and you can put it over your shirt, it's just putting it over there. So there's several things that this does. So this immediately brings you out of your head and into your heart space. That's the first thing, because your attention, again, energy goes where your attention goes. So that's the first thing that it does. Well, the other really cool thing about your heartbeat is literally the cells can be split apart and they can be taken to different locations and they can still start syncing up together in the same beat. And then the third thing that's happening is you are releasing oxytocin and serotonin. So you're now getting all those feel-good drugs in your body. And then when you can do this with somebody else, what your body is representing to them, and that is igniting their mirror neurons, is that your heart is opening, new blood is coming in. It's like ecstasy, because all this new blood is running in, but it's putting you in a more vulnerable state. So you are not in a state to attack. You are not in a state to defend. What comes from this space now that you're in it is going to be a more honest place than 2 minutes ago when you were in your head. So when you can get your audience, and you can do this with the people that you're speaking to first as the first exercise, you are already going to exponentially increase your results, because the effort that they give now are going to be coming from a more vulnerable place, because they just literally, they didn't even realize they were watching you do all these things, but they saw you do all these things, and then you mirrored them, and then you had a chance for your heartbeats to sync up. I don't know, again, like the math behind it, but it's been one of the most incredible things. Like, just being able to do that changed my entire life. And so I've got people in my challenge right now that are like on day 2 and they're like, oh my God. And I'm like, yeah, and that's 2 days at 10 minutes. Wait till you get to 3 months. And so it's just one of those things that immediately takes you, when you start to get in that crazy brain, it immediately pulls you out of your headspace, gets your heart now in sync, and then your head is getting in sync with your heart. It's not the other way around. And then also, while they're listening to you and as they're engaging with you, their body is being flooded with serotonin and oxytocin. So they're literally beginning to fall in love with you.
Yeah.
So
that's great. I've heard of the Heart Math Institute. I don't really know
it's the fastest way that I can see that we can change instantly. And everybody was telling me, well, it's all about instant results. And so I just did this for myself instinctually because of Ryan and the heartbeat and everything that came with that. But then I started noticing, because I'm always doing market research when I'm talking to people, and I saw that when people spoke about love in their life, they all and if it's true, like unconditional love, they put their hand over their heart when they're speaking about that person. So I started noticing that too. So I will help people be able to mirror that behavior when they're heart-led people, because the other thing is that when I do this with you, I'm in a more vulnerable place, but you're in a more vulnerable place too. So it's like this gigantic ripple effect that begins to happen.
Yeah.
And I would imagine if you did the brain scans with what Joe Dispenza talks about, there's something that happens there. I don't know what that is, but I just know, and I see the results from it. So I just tell everybody that I know that's getting a platform and a leader to try this with their people, because it's making it's just science.
Yeah. I mean, I noticed my body just like a shift
Yeah.
and it's like, just as you're talking, and I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah,
Like reeling in, and there's like
so cool. It's so cool. And then you just start, the more you do it, the more you just begin to live in that space. Because we were always intended for our hearts to be driving the bus. We just got it wrong when we put our heads first. And like you said, we've got these, more than half-baked noodles going on that are literally just broken and tired, and they're just ready to be used in a whole new different way. So
thank you for that.
Tell us about your challenge, because this is what originally drew me to you guys, as far as what you guys were doing. And if you guys have a new challenge coming up, or whatever you have coming up, make sure you give me the links to that, and I'll post it in this at some point. If it doesn't continue, it will be an old link, but you just tell me how we can best direct people to you too. Because you guys are going to just be on fire for teaching people how to have better relationships.
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate that. So the next one starts July 20th. So depending on when you post this, 513challenge.com, 513challenge.com is the URL. And if we don't have an active one, we'll put like a wait list up there.
Gotcha. Okay. Perfect.
Monthly. And that really came from one, we're totally into the challenge model. We actually used to do this a few years ago with another business that we had around fitness. And I've got to say, like, I didn't love them, and I wasn't good at them. And part of it was just like, fitness doesn't come natural to me. And I saw the positive outcome of them. I saw the community that could be created. I saw what could happen for people in 14 or 30 days of staying consistent and being connected. And so we had actually fallen away from that because we just, we shifted away from being so fitness focused and more to sort of holistically the human and the family, and a little bit more business related, and have just been drawn back to these challenge model. We do it for 5 days. We feel like we can really deliver our message in 5 days, and people will stay really engaged in that. And so we've landed really on what we call our 4 keys to freedom, which is faith, family, fitness, and finances.
Okay.
And so we walk through, each of those and sort of bring the awareness to people around, again, like we talked earlier, how those are all connected in your life. And our goal is, we're a family. We want to serve other families, whatever that looks like, whether you're a couple, or whether you're a single parent, or, like, everybody has a family, quite frankly. So whatever family means to you. But we really think that, we want to serve families, and we work with a lot of, folks that are like us that have younger kids, because if you have younger kids, it's very easy to get caught up in, quite frankly, changing diapers and feeding kids and scrubbing food off the walls, and, just kind of like the day-to-day operations of
humans alive. I feel like there's a lot of maintenance that comes with that, right?
100%. And it's so easy to just lose sight of, like, where are we headed? And I will tell you that there's like 2 great fears that I have. And I'm not a fearful type of person, but there's a couple of things that
concerns
that really drive me. And one of those is what I see And I just had this happen a couple weeks ago. I reconnected with an old friend. His two daughters went off to college within the last couple of years. I hadn't heard from him in a while. And he just got out of a divorce after being married for 26 years.
Yeah.
And he was like, I didn't think things were that bad. We didn't fight, but we also weren't connected. Like, we lost connection. And his two daughters were like so happy that their parents got divorced because they saw how miserable they were, even though they weren't like actively fighting. And he had no clue.
You can't fake that. You can't, and children are literally watching you and they know. That's so interesting you brought that up. I literally, one of my very best friends who I've lost contact with over the past couple of years, like, she literally was 15, 20 years with this guy, and just yesterday I talked to her, same thing. And I'm not going to say he, like, they disconnected, and she, she says, like, we just disconnected, and trying to reconnect in new ways. Like, when one party's unwilling to do that, like, that's where you have to go back to yourself and look at what you can control and what you can change.
Yeah. And it becomes so challenging at that point when you've got 15, 20 plus years. And I remember somebody a few years ago that I really respected, who in business and fitness and all the changes they had made in their life, and they were sort of a beacon, in our community, and they got a divorce. And I remember just being like, dude, like, I saw you and your wife on Facebook videos, and I was inspired to do X, Y, and Z because of this. And then, like, they disappeared, and then I got to meet him in person, and I realized the reason they disappeared off of online presence was because they got a divorce. And I was like, how does that happen? I was so fascinated. And the way he explained it to me, he was like, the hurt file, like the between them and mostly with her, but the hurt file was so full that it was like, it couldn't be cleaned out. It was like irreconcilable, basically, which is like, if you take 15 to 20 years of all the things that have not gone well in your marriage and they're all filed away, that's a lot of things to reconcile versus just throw it out and start over.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the biggest things that personally drives me is that, one, I don't want that to happen to us.
Yeah.
And two, I want to help others not experience that as well.
Yeah.
And it's very, being young, newly married and young kids, you don't even think about that stuff. Yeah. And so I've had to get my mind into, like, what could happen 20 years from now that we want to prevent and avoid. And so that's like a big part of just what we want to bring people to. And if you have young kids, that, like, growth and change is inevitable in the human process. Like, we have a son who's 8 months old here in a couple days. And, like, he will not stop moving. He hasn't crawled yet, but he will not stop moving his body. And he's so close to crawling. And it's so evident in young children. And we forget that as adults, that, like, that is still inside of us, that we want to move, we want to change, we want to grow, we want to do things. Yeah. But we squash that down. And so we don't want that that fire to die out in people. And if it has, like, we want to find that spark and reinvigorate it, because it's happened in both of our lives. We let our flame go dim in our own ways, and that's been relit in new ways.
And I just wanted just a quick note with our challenge. Tanner found this, and I think it's just beautiful just to note that it's the 5:13 Freedom Challenge, but it's based off of Galatians chapter 5, verse 13, in that we find freedom in service. And so we've gone through so much, we've learned a lot, and we want to be able to serve that back to our community. Yeah. And in the process, there is freedom with that. We create for our lives, as well as being able to create that in other families' lives.
Well, this has just been such a blessing with what you just said about the 4 keys. So literally in my challenge this morning was giving people the 4 keys that I was given, which was message, mission, movement, and then manifestation. Yeah. And it's through the serve, teach, and grow model.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people are like, what is a challenge? Like, what do you mean with a challenge? And there's structure and there's strategy to it, but it literally is an opportunity for you to vulnerably walk through this in service for others, and you can't fake that model.
Yeah.
Right.
It doesn't work if you fake the model. Like, it doesn't work. So I just want people, because I've been trying to, like, I just brought this up today, and because they don't quite understand like what a challenge is or what the rewards of a challenge are. So you kind of give the structure of what a challenge is. So tell me some of those rewards that you guys, do you consider yourself entrepreneurs? Are you business owners? Like, what do you guys call yourself?
Yeah, we're online entrepreneurs. Most of our business is online.
So as you know, as an entrepreneur, like talking about finding this model, like what's been your biggest rewards from a model like this?
So let me say a couple of things on that, because the first thing that came to mind, and then I'll more directly answer your question. But I keep coming back to, I saw this post on Instagram, and I saved this picture, and we use this as the framework for our challenge, and it was talking about healing. Specifically, it said healing. I like to think of it as growth. I think you heal through growth, and so I say growth happens individually, with a practitioner, and through community. And I saw that and I was like, wow, like that's what's happening in the challenge model, is that you have a community. You get to work with us, and we bring in, for this next challenge, we're bringing in our therapist, the woman that we speak to on a weekly basis to keep our stuff in line.
Not let the past dictate the future.
Yeah, we're bringing her in, and a couple of other, special guests. So we want to expose people to the community. We want to expose people to, individuals that have, she's got 30 plus years experience in that field. And then ultimately the work comes down to, yourself and you doing the work yourself. And so I think that within, again, a 5-day, it's a framework, right? It's a framework. And I feel like, having been in online business for so long, I've chased multiple things, and I see it still today, and I do my best to help people, but people are chasing softwares and solutions and products, right? It's all of these, like, because they see people having success with certain, whatever it is, products and services online, they chase that as a business model. And I have done that as well.
I have too.
Right. And then what I realized though, is that, finding frameworks, right? And your 4Ms and our 4Fs, like, yeah, it's fun to have cool names and stuff, but like, you don't have to, but it helps it be memorable for people. And so it allows you to set context. And like I said, it creates that community. And for us, from a business perspective, the reality is that people want to do business with people that they know, like, and trust. And so a challenge allows you to turn people that, maybe you don't know, if you're running, Facebook ads and finding people online that you've never met. It allows people that you've never met, or maybe people that you quote unquote Facebook friends because they're on your friends list, but you don't really know them. It allows them to get to know you. It allows us as an entrepreneur to get to know the people that we want to serve, and like truly what their problems are, because
I love you calling it an appetizer.
Right. It is. And the more that we've learned about, marketing and how to really serve people, you have to get to know their problems and how they think about their problems, so you can create solutions and use your experiences and your frameworks to actually be of service to people. And so this model allows for that intimacy. It allows for that learning, and it gets people started. Yeah. And that's where I think it's an appetizer. It gets people started. Because if you're doing it properly, from a facilitator standpoint, you should always have something that you're leading people to next. And I thought, going back to that 3-day seminar, I thought, oh man, they got me in here for $500 just to sell me this $5,000 7-day.
Was that your first thought when they?
Yeah.
Okay. Was it before they made the offer, or was it?
It was after they had made the offer.
It was after they had made the offer that was your first.
Because I had no idea. I was so I'd never been in anything like that. I had no idea, like, oh, they're going to sell me something else while I'm here.
Gotcha.
And then, and they let you go on break, and then you talk to people, and people are like, oh, this is like you find the people, your vibe attracts your tribe, right? And so if you're hung up on that stuff, you find the other people that are hung up on it, and people that are complaining that, like, oh, well, you just sold me on this. And I went to a few seminars, and then I was like, oh, well, this is what always happens. And then when we started doing this on our own, I'm like, well, of course it is, because there's no way that you're going to be able to deliver everything that you have in 5 days, or even in 90 days, or, we're now in 12-month-long masterminds. And it's like your first year in a 12-month-long mastermind gives you something different than your second year in it. And so I've come to appreciate the fact that as an entrepreneur and somebody of service, you should be thinking about the different levels you can serve people. And as a consumer of those things, there are people that I would probably pay a lot more money to if they actually had like products and a way to allow me to do business with them at a higher level, right? And there are some people that just haven't figured this out, and that's okay, but it's just like, it's not for everybody. Not every level is for everybody. But if you really care about your people, you should have a way for them to continue to go deeper and deeper and deeper with you. And the investment it is equal on both sides. They're investing more money, you're investing more time, and that commitment and that bond grows stronger and stronger. And ultimately, their results will show, with the more they're committed.
And I think it speeds up the time, right? Like, you think about, well, if you were to try to just figure all this stuff out on your own, you might figure it out by the time you're dead, and you're like, cool. But yeah, you want to kind of move the time along.
Oh yeah. I mean, my statement this morning, literally in my group, was like, it's either going to cost you in money or it's going to cost you in time. Yeah. There's no way that you're going to get around that. And for me, I was like, let's see, it's cost me 25 years and it's cost me $15,000.
Yeah. And for the people who don't want to invest, it actually will probably cost you more time, money, as well as the time. So you're double, it just, get mentors.
That is a good point that it will, because the way that this is set up is literally, it's set up as the win-win-win relationship to everybody.
I mean, think about when you invest in something, you do it, you do it right the first time, so to speak, right? Versus like, oh, let me take a shortcut here and let me, buy the cheap thing here and and then nothing lasts. And so you got to spend more money, right? So,
There's a high-end leather brand out there. I forget the name, but they sell like leather luggage and bags and stuff, and very, very high-end and very high priced. And it comes with 100-year warranty, and their slogan is "Only cry once." And so I love that, because I can track back, and I just had this recently. I won't tell the story to conserve time, but I can track back when I have been a tight ass on my purchasing decisions, and I've bought something cheap. I generally end up paying a second time to buy, either the thing that I wanted the first time, or the thing that I knew I should have bought, or whatever. And so money is easy to look at from a cost perspective, but I think it's important when people are thinking about an investment in themselves, that they weigh the cost of everything. They weigh the cost of time. They weigh the cost of, like, how many more packs of cigarettes are you going to buy?
Or
they
not
weigh
taking
the cost
action.
Of a divorce, right? I mean, my divorce cost me probably $25,000 with custody battle and lawyers and investigations and all this other stuff. So people don't always consider the other cost, the cost of being unhealthy and ending up in the hospital, like all of these things that we do our best to open people's eyes to the cost of everything, not just what you're paying with your money, right here, right now.
Well, and there was something that came to me when I first threw my first like $2,000 into the ring, and I didn't have $2,000 to throw in the ring, but I figured it out, and it was for the KBB course with and I got next to, like, because Tony was like the mentor that I picked that changed my life, and then I was like, oh my God, like, this is what I've been looking for. This is the model and everything. And so literally the self-education made so much sense to me, and to be able to put it in a way. And then when COVID hit, to have this other model that literally just complements that in the best ways to set you up. And I don't care what kind of business you're in. Like, you can do this for any kind of business. You can do this for any kind of entrepreneur, and you can set it up, and you can set yourself up for success with this right now, because literally what's happening with the world is that when you're moving forward in an authentic, vulnerable way and pouring in your service, the results that you're getting are exponential.
Yeah, absolutely. And invest in learning frameworks. And I think, when you see people like Tony Robbins doing something, I've sort of leaned on that as, listen, we're working with the people that helped Tony Robbins set up his challenge. I'm not claiming to be Tony Robbins or to ever be Tony Robbins, nor do I aspire to be. But the point is, we're following the framework and the model. And it's easy for people to go like, oh, well, Tony's already done it. Like, why would you, or why would anybody else do a challenge? And it's like, well, Tony did it, and he had 300,000 people, and he had great results, but there's 7.7 billion people in the world, right? There are still people.
And we're offering
different. I'm having success. Are you having success?
Yeah.
Okay.
We all have something
still people living under rocks. and there's a lot of value in having intimate groups of 20 or 50 or 100 or 200 or 500 or 1,000, whatever. Like, we've invested with many different people, and from groups of thousands to groups of dozens or hundreds, and we get something different out of all of those experiences. So I don't think for people to think like, well, this person did it, why should anybody else? Or I did this one program, why should I do the other program? I heard something yesterday, and this guy was talking about how he was coaching an entrepreneur on being stuck at about $500,000 in revenue. And the guy said, well, I've been investing about $20,000 in my business, and I'm stuck at $500,000. And the guy goes, well, why wouldn't you double the investment in your business if you want to double your revenue? And the business owner was just sort of like blown away. Well, like, oh, well, I thought it was just supposed to continue to grow. And he was like, if you are investing in seeing results and your results have stopped, it's probably a good chance that, and you've stopped investing, like there's a correlation there. And so we're big believers in that.
And good correlation. Let's put another flag right there, peeps. Like, that is $1 million money right there, for sure. We just we're not taught to think like that.
Yeah. We're not. We're taught to think that like, oh, it's expensive, and somebody's making money off of me, and I think that's where the know, like, and trust factor comes, right?
Yeah.
If you can go through a 5-day and you can get to know somebody, you start to like them, and you actually trust them, you're going to want to do business. And if you don't, like, that's okay too, because we're not all for each other, right? Like, we're not, and that's really okay. And it's amazing to be able to, find your own tribe, and what you're doing, with One Tribe Rising, and like bringing people together, and the people, like you told us before we got on here, how you sort of intuitively just, feel or see the people that should be connected with you and your tribe. And I think that's very amazing. So we definitely, we appreciate you having us on.
Thank you for having us.
This has been a wonderful conversation.
And this is, to me, this is my bread and butter. Like, I'm like, I get to do this all day long. oh, okay. Like,
Yeah.
this is where I'm so passionate. And so, this model really allows you to tap into your own unique expression. It allows you to tap into your own experience, like you said, using your own experience. So that's unique to each of us. And so it really is it's been such a good way for me to find my real voice, and for that to come out and give myself permission to express myself in a way to find my people. Like, that's been, I think, for me, one of the biggest, just beautiful gifts that I've seen come out of this. And I'm just like, wow, I'm just going to keep putting one foot in front of the other and just keep looking at you guys, keep putting one foot in front of the other. So with your challenge, what you've learned so far, like, what has been your biggest either aha moment from it or your biggest blessing from it?
I'm so sorry. I'm gonna excuse myself because
you need to go?
I have to nurse. so I'm just feeling myself a little like pulled, but Tanner will finish up. Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you so much for having us. This was amazing. We had a great time.
Thank you, hon, so much. Yes, absolutely. Take care of that.
Mom life.
Well, any moms that are listening to this can completely relate to having to do that. So,
and you know what, like, quite frankly, like, this is our life. We have a little dog, and the dog was down here yapping the other day during a video, and we're just like, hey, I think, like, we talked about getting on, earlier on, is that like, having Zoom and having video and doing this, like, allows that human connection. And we get to see that, like, somebody on the other end is a human. And let me go back. What was your question? And we sort of got this.
No, so what has been your aha moment? Like, what's been your big aha moment so far that you've learned, or your biggest blessing that you've seen? And like I said, maybe those two are the same.
Yeah.
Whichever.
I think, so we started, again, we told you the story about how, like, a lot has changed in 5 years. And, as a result of that, our friends circle has changed as well. And quite frankly, shrank, quite a bit. Kate didn't know anybody, when she moved to Colorado. I used to hang out with people that, were primarily single, would spend hours, going outdoors and working out, and then hanging out at the bars, and, like, all these things that I loved and stuff. But it's just different when when you're focused on your growth and building a business, and, like, very conscious of where your time goes, and then two, have small kids and all this other stuff. So we started 2020 going, okay, we have, she's now had 2 kids. We're done. We're now sort of in the raising stage, and we're meeting other families with younger kids. And so we started 2020 with an intention of building community and growing our circle of friends and support system. And then, the world got locked down, and we couldn't go out, and we couldn't do events, and we couldn't, be as in person with people. And then transitioning, and we've already done a lot of stuff online, but we thought, like, we also want local community and people that we can go frickin' barbecue with, or go to the park with, or whatever. And that's just not how our summer's going. And so it's allowed us to actually connect with and find other people like us, and build a community that we desire. Yeah. And I think it's easy, and I know in my own mind, it's easy for me to think, like, oh, I'm the only person that has my problems, or my thoughts, or my circumstance, or whatever, right? It's very easy to get isolated and siloed. And what this has done for us is allowed us to be like, that's not true. Like, there's actually lots of people. It's on us to be better communicators and facilitators to go find those people. There are lots of people out there that have similarities, that need what we want, and what we feel like we have access to through our mentors and practitioners and other people that we've mentioned. And I think the blessing of that, coming back to that Galatians 5:13 that I found, is, like, freedom comes through service. And I didn't grow up that way. I grew up thinking, I needed to get money so I could have cars and houses and trips and like have all the things. I thought that's what money was for
Right.
and what you got into business for. And I'm so grateful that, you know, we found people like Pedro and, you know, just the people that we've been surrounded with that are very well off financially.
Yeah. Who was it that got you into this group? Because you were friends with.
Oh, Pete Vargas.
He blew my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I think that's, you know, again, that's just like an example. So Kate and I met Pete Vargas at the same event where we met. So we all met together. And he ends up, you know, he lives just an hour south of us. And we, you know, we kind of fell out of touch, quite frankly. Like I knew he was doing his thing. Right. And then I saw like, wow, he is really blowing up.
Doing his thing.
He's really blowing up with this whole challenge model. And I was like, we're going to listen to him and we're going to work with him more. And I think that's, you know, the beauty, like he's just such a humble guy. And he's like, he's like, cool, like glad to work with you. I'm okay if you don't want to work with me. Like he's got so much going on and he's providing so much value. And he was really an example, one of many that I have now in my life of like, you will be rewarded financially for the service that you render to others. And that's a concept that like I'm now fully embracing.
Yeah, absolutely.
That I've had to experience. I've had to witness in other people and then experience in my own life to actually understand and know that that's true.
Well, and I'm going to be launching a community serve, teach, and grow Grand Rapids because I would like to set a model that each city, when they ask themselves what could they be doing, they could be doing something like this.
Yeah.
So that it could work for the cities. And I've reached out to about 20 to 25 businesses, people. I'd love you guys. I'd love to send you the email on it and have you guys do it. And it's 20 to 30 minutes of content. If you want to do more, but it's going to be for 7 key areas. So just tell me which area that's going to be in. And then I'm going to do a community challenge. It's going to be a $25 buy-in. And then 85% of it is going to be going back to nonprofits, like 3 specific ones that are supporting the community and like re-education and, you know, an urban garden, and then like something else that helps like just re-education and maybe some mental areas too. So I would love to represent, like have you guys represented that in that group too.
Okay.
So many people need to hear about relationships too, and to also see that it's possible to see something like this and a relationship and a family is completely possible.
Yeah, I love that, and please, let's connect on that. Because
and if you have any advice, like of how I can make this better,
sure.
Because like I said, I'd like to be able to then take this and go to nonprofits and say, here's the proof that it works. Let me help you with this, so then they can start getting an income stream themselves.
Yeah, I think, like I said, we wanted to focus. We love the power of the internet, and I have a theory. I actually started a company. By started a company, I mean I bought the domain name called Grow Local. Right, Grow Local Online, and my whole premise was I wanted to use my online digital marketing knowledge to be able to grow local businesses and local communities.
Yeah.
And again, it's sort of been backburnered, but it was one of those things that I'm like, I believe in, one, I love technology. I love that we can be doing this right now, you know, with just an internet connection and a camera and a microphone.
Yeah.
But we all live in physical communities. That is not going to change.
Right.
And I think it's important to build up those communities. I don't know if you use the Nextdoor app, but like the Nextdoor app in our neighborhood, it's like the neighborhood communication app.
Okay.
And like, people are so like, they're arguing over shit. And it's like, these are your neighbors. Like, these are the people that we see walking out on the streets, and like people having arguments over like petty stuff. And it's like, why would you argue in a public digital forum if you really have an issue about something? Like, just go work it out with the
Talk
person,
about
the
it.
organization, or like let it go. So I have a big passion for like how we can strengthen our local communities, because we all live in local communities.
Okay.
And I think there's a power with technology. And I think, again, this challenge model, you can call it a challenge, call it a workshop, whatever it is, like it's an appetizer that will get people in and get people started. And the right people will stick around and continue to do work. And so I love that. I'd love to, see what you're doing.
Well, and there's an emerging education company that I pitched this vision to, and he's on board with it. So if I can also get like some serious players in here that are going to help me, I can show you what the bigger vision was too, because that's the vision that I was passed. And it seems like the people that I'm seeing with this intuition, that light that we were talking about, are supposed to play a part, and they have a piece of this vision, and possibly are one of the people that are standing on stage with me during it. So,
love that. Yeah, I think education, education is. I've seen this so many places and from so many people in the last couple of weeks, especially as we think about our kids going back to school. Like, it is due for transformation. Maybe not this year, but like this year is certainly tipping things on its head. Some schools are going solely online. Harvard is still charging $50,000 for, Zoom classes, basically. So I think there's a massive opportunity there, and having, young kids and feeling, quite frankly, a bit misled by the education system. I'd love to be even a small piece of any sort of, positive transformation in that area.
Absolutely. Well, you and I speak the same language there. So I'll make sure that we'll get something set up to talk about that.
Awesome.
So I wanted to be able to give you and your wife something too, because my company is One Tribe Rising, and it speaks to the one that I was talking about, the one that's me and you, and then the one that's the consciousness. And so I had a local business owner. I wanted to be able to give something away for my challenges. And so she created these little people.
Oh, sweet.
And these are like all the little One Tribe people.
Love it.
All different colors. Is there a particular, what's your wife's favorite color?
What is my wife's favorite color? Probably, I don't know, pink. She likes pink and rose and like that sort of color. She's not a super girly girl.
Okay. Is there another color that she likes besides pink?
Blue.
Okay. All right. I got hers.
Excellent.
So here's, oops, hold on, let me see.
Oh, that looks perfect.
There's hers. Okay. And then I've got like purple, green, blue, orange, yellow. What color?
Let's go green. Green.
You want green?
Yeah.
Okay, green and let's see here. Green and purple. Green and I got
green and yellow?
Let's see here. Okay, I got this one. Hold on. The little rings are a little hard here. But yeah, so everybody in my challenge is going to get one of these for just showing up.
That's cool. Perfect. Love it.
So I got yours.
Is it woven? What's the material?
Yeah, it's like, she called it like paracord.
Okay.
I think it's like the nautical stuff that like is kind of, it's not waterproof, but it's like you tie knots out of this, and like it's like the strongest stuff.
Yeah, like that emergency rope or whatever that you like keep with you. Yeah,
that's what I feel like it is. And she's got her own business, and I wanted to support her. And we came up with these people, and it just fit perfectly. So
that's awesome.
And then everybody can see, like, you can always remember you're part of, like, you're an official member of One Tribe Rising now. So,
I love that. That's cool. I think I think like little physical gifts and stuff like that, again, especially since we live in such a digital world, but like any like physical touches like that, I think are cool and make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I just know that the world is feeling pretty lonely right now. In a way of just kind of, we've separated ourselves again. And so for the ones that really don't understand and aren't using the social media platform in a way to find that community right now, they're really struggling. So, I also wanted them to have a physical reminder too that can take them out of that mental state when they start going down that road, to be able to see, and as a physical reminder too, that they're connected and that they're not alone as well. So
Yeah, I think that's awesome. That's a great idea.
all right, my dear. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show so much. You guys check out the link in this post, because it's gonna give you the link to his challenge.
Yep.
And anything that you're gonna do with them is gonna bring you into so much better of a place. And I think it's just going to really, especially if you're a younger couple, and you've got kids, and life is kind of getting in the way of how to build a stronger unity. I think these two are a really good example of a way that they can show you how to get there, and then also by avoiding their own pitfalls too. So
yeah, we believe, and this is more my wife that sort of brought to this, is like your challenges and your troubles and your triumphs of life are not in vain if you like take them, learn from them, and help other people, avoid them or get unstuck in similar situations in their life. And again, this wasn't a mindset that I was born with. This is something that I had to just come to the awareness of. And now, like, literally every problem I have in my life, I'm like, oh, there's going to be a good lesson for some people coming out of this thing, because I am like, I'm really stuck on something, and I'm going to figure this out, and I'm going to share it with people. And that drives me more to continue to move forward in my life than if I just think about like me, myself, and I, and my problems and my challenges. So,
well, the challenge that I have going on right now is Hearts on Fire. It's the Hearts on Fire 7-Day Challenge, and it's introducing the new 2020 vision, and it's bringing people out of their heads and into their hearts.
I love that.
Yeah, I hope the audience can really hear what's going on right now, and I hope that you guys can utilize this as a way of finding that community and finding that support that's going to help you build the best foundation on which to build your structure upon. And I think that that's where we when we're impatient, when we're trying to get to that destination, I think you guys, we want to try and get to step 5 and step 7 without taking step 1. And this is really going to bring you back to taking that small mighty step. What's emerged in the last 2 days is these small mighty steps, man, are equaling mighty rewards. So that's going to help you in your life take those small steps that are needed to creating the change that you want. So, and again,
enjoy the journey, trust the process.
Right. And and I do please thank Kate again for me too. And
Okay.
I will, you guys don't know it, but you're not getting rid of me.
No, I'm really glad you reached out, and I definitely look forward to doing more stuff in the future. And I love just our little, off air intro there. It was great to hear more from you.
Well, and you guys never forget the power of one.
Yeah.
Never forget the power that you have. And when I always say, like, your heartbeat has so much power. Your footstep has so much power. And if you really heard what Tanner did when he changed his life, he didn't change his mindset.
Right.
He didn't start there. He changed his behavior.
Yeah.
He took an action.
That's it.
An action that's outside of everything that he'd ever known. And that path, that has opened him up to, would you say that you're on the path to your greatest, deepest, most meaningful connections and desires and wealth that there could be right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's a completely different vision for my life. And I say this, and some people think I'm joking or sort of, negative, but I'm like, I had a vision that like, or a blueprint for my life that like, you go to school, you get a good job, you buy a house, you get a car, you get married, and like pretty much from there, like then everything goes downhill, right? Like, because the longer you stay in a marriage, the more unhappy you are. The longer you're at a job, the more unhappy you are, and you hope that you just have enough money to make it until you die. And like, that's just like what I absorbed from my environment. And now it's like, oh my God, like I have there's so many things I want to do and so many ideas, and like the people that we're meeting, such as yourself, like there are so many things that have happened in our last few years and are happening, and like visions and goals and dreams that we have that I'm like, this is amazing. And I talk to people every day that are sort of like, hey, like, I just want to get by. It's that, like, I just want to avoid and get out of the little bit of pain that I'm in right now.
Yeah.
And the reality is like, if you don't start to take the steps, you don't have to make radical change. Radical transformation is not step one, but if you don't take some step forward with the idea that you're always going to just continue to take a step forward, you'll always just be stuck in that place of like just avoiding pain, just avoiding pain, just avoiding pain.
Yeah.
And you know, that's just what leads to that life that I think when you end up in you know, your 50s, 60s, and 70s, and you go,
Well, and
what
you're
the hell am I doing?
you are avoiding the pain that you think that you see, not realizing that a mile down the road is the pain that you can't see.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a million times worse than the pain that's right in front of you if
Yeah.
you continue. So that's powerful, man. You guys are awesome. I'm so happy I met you.
Yeah, this is great. Thanks again for reaching out. Thanks for having us on. And I look
Absolutely.
forward to what else we're going to do in the future together.
All right. Thank you so much, Tanner.
You bet. Take care.
Yeah, you too, hon.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.